Hi everyone, Victor here again, and in today's lesson we're going to be looking at how to set and manage permissions in Linux. Why do we set file permissions? File permission is very important in any operating system operation. As an administrator, you will always want to safeguard the system against attacks, both externally and internally. And as well, you want to protect the system from any accidental occurrences such as deletion of critical files or running of critical scripts that can break the system. Hence, you would need to set file permissions. To understand file permissions better in Linux, let's even understand the attributes of a file. So let's create a file so that we can understand the attributes of a file. And of course, if you took my Learn Linux from Scratch series, you will understand how to create a file. You should see that course if you don't understand the basics of Linux because that is what makes the whole complete course for this Linux system administration. So to create a file, you can of course use the command. So I'm going to create an empty file, so I can just use the command touch file one, and if I do ls-l, you can see that the file, which is the name file one, has been created. So in Linux and even in other operating system, every file has an owner, that is the user that created the file. And also every file for every file you can grant a group to be able to access the file. So in this case, the owner of this file is Victor. You can see that it was Victor, which is this user that created the file. So the owner of this file is Victor, and the group owner, that is the group that can access this file to, is also Victor. And from our previous lesson, of course, you can tell that this group Victor is a primary group. You will also see this sign, which is dash RW dash R, this one that looks like an earthly language. So this actually shows the permissions that are attached to the file name file one. So whenever you see a file like this, the first character, which is dash, will tell you if it is a file or if it is a directory. So when you see dash, it is telling you that file one is a file. If it is a directory, you will see D. So let me just show you. So for example, let me make a directory. So I can say make directory one, for example. And if I do ls-l, you can see that the directory here, you can see that this is starting from D, which means that this is a directory, right? So the character D is telling you that the file is a directory, while the character dash is telling you that the file is a file. There are other characters like L that shows the soft links. Yeah, by the time we get to that bit too, you will understand better what soft links are. Again, when a user creates a file, the user can either read the file only, or can either read and write on the file only, or can either read, write, and execute on the file only. Also, the group that is allowed to access the file can either read the file only, the members of that group can either write on the file only, or they can either read, write, and execute on the file only. And also, there are users on the system that is not the user that created the file, nor a member of the group that is allowed to access the file. So these users too should or can either read on the file only, they can either read or write on the file only, and they can either read, write, and execute on the file only. So how do we know all of this? If you look at this file one again, like I said, that the first character will tell you or show you if it is a file or a directory. So after this first character, you will need to group these other characters into sections. So this is what I mean. The first three sets is the first three character I mean is a section. The other three character is a section or set. Then the other three character is another section or set. So this first three character represents the permissions for the user that created the file. And this other set of three characters represent the group that can access the file, while these other three characters represent the other users apart from the user that created the file and the group that can access the file. So this represents their own permission. And if you look at the first three sets, that is the owner of this file, you can see that the owner of this file can only read and write on the file. So the R means read, the W means write, while the last character, which is dash, means execute. So if you look at this file directory one now, for example, you can see that for this directory one, the user can read, write, and execute, which is the X. But for this file one, you can see that the user, or that is the owner of this file, which is Victor, can only read and write on this file, but cannot execute on this file. So if you look at the other set, which is this three characters, the group owner of this file, which is also Victor, you can see that the group owner can only read on this file. The member of the group, any user that is a member of the group Victor, cannot write and execute on the file. They can only read on this file. And for the others, that is the user that is not Victor and the user that is not a member of the group Victor, they can also only read this file. Having understood the attributes of the file, of a Linux file, let us go to the next section, which is the how to section. So let us see the step-by-step guide of how to set permissions in Linux. And before we get to that section, I want to quickly tell you that there we have documentation for all these lessons. So there are sometimes you might need to refer to the documentation. I'll be dropping the link to that documentation in the description box below. And also, if you need some practice questions, if you're going to be writing the exam, you can also check it in the description box below, or you can reach out to us on info@technic.com. To set permissions in Linux, you can do it in two modes. You can do it in absolute mode and you can also do it in symbolic mode. Symbolic mode simply means using symbols, and these are the symbols that we can use to set permissions. So if you look at the screen, the symbol U denotes the user, that is, the user that owns the file, and the symbol G denotes the group, that is, the group that can access the file, and the symbol O denotes others, that is, other users, that is not the user that own the file, nor a member of the group of the user that can access the file. So now another symbol you should look at is R. So R means read, W means write, while X means execute. So if you have U plus R, this means that you want to give the read permission to the user. So you're saying user plus read. And if you have user minus R, this means that you want to remove the read permission from the user. If you also have user plus W, this means that you want to give the right permission to the user. And if you have user minus W, this means that you want to remove the right permission from the user. And this is also applicable to the group as well. So if I have G minus R, this means that I want to remove the read permission from the group. And if I have G plus W, this means that I want to give the right permission to the group. The same thing is applicable to others too as well. If I have O minus R, this means that I want to remove the read permission from others. And if I have O plus X, this means that I want to give the execute permission to others. Like I said, I'll be dropping the link to this documentation in the description box below. So if you want to follow through, you can just click on the link. And this is also a very important thing you can also take note of. And the command that we can use to give permissions in Linux is the chmod command. So let's just do this so you can understand what I'm trying to say here. So if I do ls-l on this file 1, you can see that for the user can only read and write on this file. That's the permission for the user, but the user cannot execute on this file. And that is why you are seeing dash there. And for the group can only read, the group cannot write nor execute. And the same thing is also applicable for others. So for me to make the user, that is the owner of this file, which is Victor, if I want to make Victor to be able to execute on this file 1, what I'm going to do is to use the command chmod, which is the command that is used to set permissions. So I can now say user plus execute on file 1. If I say enter and if I do ls-l, now you can see that I have the execute permission being added, and now the user, that is Victor, can read, write, and execute on this file called file 1. And for the group Victor can only read on this file 1. So if I want the group Victor to be able to read and write, so I'm just going to say chmod, I'm going to say group plus, so the group Victor can only read, so I'm just going to add write, then I'm going to say file 1, and if I do ls-l again, now you can see that the group Victor, that is the group section here, you can see that this group can now read and write on this file 1. If I want to also remove the permission, all I need to do is to say, so for example, I can say for user minus W, and if I do chmod or if I do ls-l, you can now see that the user cannot write on this file. The user can only read and execute on this file. So this is how you use the symbolic mode to set permissions on a file or on a directory. So let us look at the other mode, which is the absolute mode. The absolute mode simply means using numbers to set permissions. And for the numbers, for the read permission, it has the number 4. For the write permission, it has the number 2. And for the execute permission, it has the number 1. Meaning that if I add 4 plus 2 plus 1, that would give me 7, right? So 4 plus 2 plus 1 will give me 7, meaning that this 7 denotes the read, the write, and the execute permission. If I have 4 plus 2, that's 6. So 6 means that I can read and I can write. If I have 2 plus 1, that is 3. 3 is write and execute. You can see write and execute here, which is 3. And 0 means nothing. You can also see that in the descending order. So if I have 7, that's read, write, execute permission. If I have 6, that is read, write permission. If I have 5, that is only read and execute permission. If I have 4, that is only read permission. If I have 3, that is only write and execute permission. So this is how you calculate using the absolute mode. So let's see example. Using the absolute mode, to give the user and the group and the other permissions, if you're to give them the read, write, and execute, so we can just say chmod 7, which means read, write, and execute for user, 7, which also means read, write, and execute for group, and 7, which also means read, write, and execute for others. So I can say file 1. If I say enter and if I do ls dash l, now you can see that users can read, write, execute, others can read, write, execute, and group can read, write, execute, and others can read, write, and execute. Another thing we can do is, okay, if I want to give the permission, um, for the user, if I want to give read and write and execute permission only, and if I also want to give the group permission, read and write, and others nothing, so what I'm going to do is to use the command chmod 7 for the user. That means the user will be able to read, write, and execute. Then for group, that will be 6. That means that the group can only read and write. And for others, that will be 0. That means that I don't want others to be able to read or write or execute. And if I say file 1, if I say enter and if I do ls-l, so now you can see that for users can read, write, execute. For group, the group can only read and write, and for others, the others cannot do anything. They won't be able to read, write, or execute. So this is how you're going to set permissions in Linux. Having understood this, this is where it ends for the people that wants to only do the RHCSA exam, or that are only concerned with the Red Hat administration. So let's get to the Ubuntu section. To set permissions in Linux, you can do it in two modes. You can do it in absolute mode, and you can also do it in symbolic mode. Symbolic mode simply means using symbols, and these are the symbols that we can use to set permissions. If I do ls-l, you can see that for file 2 here, the user can read, write, and execute. The group can read and write only, while others can only read. And if I want to use the symbolic mode to set permissions, so for example, if I want the user to be able to only read and write, I'm going to say chmod. So chmod is the command that is used to set permissions. So I can say user minus execute on file 2. If I say enter and if I say ls-l, now you can see that the user can only read and write on the file. I have removed the execute permission. So Victor can only read and write on this file. If I also want to remove the write permission, or let me say, let's add the execute permission for the group. And now I'm going to say chmod group plus execute on file 2 on file 2. So if I do ls-l, you can now see that the group can read, write, and execute. So this is how you're going to use the symbolic mode to set permissions, you know. So let's look at how to use the absolute mode. The absolute mode simply means using numbers to set permissions. And for the numbers, for the read permission, it has the number 4. For the write permission, it has the number 2. And for the execute permission, it has the number 1. Meaning that if I add 4 plus 2 plus 1, that would give me 7, right? So 4 plus 2 plus 1 will give me 7, meaning that this 7 denotes the read, the write, and the execute permission. If I have 4 plus 2, that's 6. So 6 means that I can read and I can write. If I have 2 plus 1, that is 3. 3 is write and execute. You can see write and execute here. which is 3, and 0 means nothing. You can also see that in the descending order. So if I have 7, that's read, write, execute permission. If I have 6, that is read, write permission. If I have 5, that is only read and execute permission. If I have 4, that is only read permission. If I have 3, that is only write and execute permission. So this is how you calculate using the absolute mode. So let's see example. For the absolute mode, if you look at this file, file 2, for the permission, you can see that the user can read and write only. Others can read, write, and execute. I mean, the group can read, write, execute, and others can read only. So if I want the user to be able to read, write, execute, if I want the group to be able to read, write, execute, anyways, the group can actually read, write, execute. And if I also want others to be able to read, write, and execute, I'm just going to use the command chmod. So for the read, write, execute, that's number 7, meaning that the user will be able to read, write, and execute. For others, that also will be 7. I mean, for group, that also will be 7, meaning that the group can read, write, execute. So I'm just going to leave it at 7 because the permission is still saying that the group can read, write, and execute. And for others, I'm also going to say 7, meaning that others will be able to read, write, execute. So if I say file 2, if I do ls-l, now you can see that the user can read, write, and execute, the group can read, write, and execute, and others can read, write, and execute. Another example we can do is that if I want the user to be able to read, write, execute only, if I want the group to be able to read and write only, and if I want others not to be able to even do anything at all, so I can use the command chmod. So for the user, that is 7, that is the user will be able to read, write, execute. For the group, I'm going to say 6, so meaning that the group will be able to read and write only, and for others, I'm going to say 0, nothing. So they won't be able to do anything on the file at all. And if I do ls-l, now you can see that the user can read, write, and execute. The group can only read and write, and others cannot even do anything at all. So this is how you use the chmod command to set file permissions in Linux. I want to say thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like, share, comment here. When you do this, you will enable us to, you will encourage us. I'm beginning to use technical terms. You will encourage us to do more of this. Thank you once more for watching and bye for now.